Welcome to the Seahawkers Podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
He holds on to the ball too long.
And Brandon Schultz.
Are you suggesting that there's people who leave comments that don't actually go and watch or listen to the content?
Go Hawks!
This is episode 219 of the Seahawkers Podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy, Montana Seahawker Adam Emmert.
Good morning, Brandon. I don't know if you noticed when you walked outside this morning to either get the paper or take the garbage out, whatever the first thing it is that you go outside to do, that the sky was still in the air. Did you see it? It wasn't falling.
It was not falling.
No, it was up there, like stationary. It was good.
That's so weird that you had mentioned that, because I watched Golden Girls last night, and it was the episode where they do the Chicken Little play.
I wasn't aware of this episode, but that's pretty funny. That's great.
So coincidentally, a great episode.
Well, all I know, Brandon, is it's good to talk to you today, and thank you for being a friend.
Absolutely. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, including the sky not falling, but we do have some injury updates with the team. Clearly, it was an impact in this last game against the Bears. And one of the things I'm most excited about is that there's a conspiracy theory brewing in the Seahawks fan community. And so I'm all into conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's get the tinfoil hats out. Let's call up Alex Jones. Let's go. I mean, this better have like some pig people from Mars involved, like something good, you know?
It's only moderately good. It's mostly has to do with timeouts.
Play the Unsolved Mysteries music, because it's crazy.
We will get into that. And then Andrew Guzman, Cowboys fan from Common Ground Football Podcast, coming on the show to give us a little insight on what to look for against the matchup against the Cowboys on Sunday.
That's cool. I wish I could have been there for that conversation. You'll have to fill me in a little bit on kind of his perspective, because when we talk a little more Cowboys. Yeah,
my favorite part is that he was sure to let us know that he's not one of the annoying Cowboys fans.
Okay, so he didn't report and re-report and talk about endlessly an Earl Thomas trade?
No, I even grilled him on that. Like, okay, and he seemed okay with not having Earl Thomas on the team for whatever reason.
And seemed to understand like that was never happening.
That was the sense that I got.
All right. Well, then you're right. He's not one of the annoying ones.
I kind of think that's what an annoying Cowboys fan would say, though.
You like it? Now you're in full conspiracy mode today. Like, he's an incognito annoying Cowboy fan. I got it.
Let's start this off. Because the Seahawks did lose against the Bears this past weekend, Chris Balding came in with an email taking the blame for this loss, which all good fans should do. But Chris was the one who really took ownership this week, says, "I'm sorry to say, but I must take some of the blame for this week's loss to the Bears. It cannot all be assigned to the play calling and lack of dedication to the run. You see, I did not realize that my cabinet of Seahawks cards and memorabilia was in such a mess. All of the cards were just laying there, not in their stands. The towels I have that people bought me from games were tossed on top. And worst of all, my game day programs were missing. However, you will be pleased to know that after an evening of tidying and interrogating a 3-year-old to the location of said programs, my cabinet is now back to its correct and proper order. So we will be safe in a victory in the home opener against the Cowboys. All the best, and can't wait to see you guys in London for a beer. Go Hawks," from Chris.
All right. Well, thank God that Chris is now securing our safety with a win here this next week. He needs to secure the safety of his own home, because it sounds like somebody's breaking in and ransacking through his stuff.
Yeah, well,
that's what it sounds like to me.
When you have a 3-year-old, that can't happen.
They're terrors. Everybody says terrible twos, man. The threes were the worst.
And he says he can only take some of the blame, but I feel like you could take all of the blame in this, because, what's that?
Okay. All right. Because I was going to say, I think I have some blame here too, but apparently not.
Well, maybe
it's all
you
on
do.
Chris.
Yeah. But you know how they have that scientific theory that time warping is possible because of the molecules on the other side of the galaxy have something to do with the molecules on this side. And
spooky action at a distance. Yeah.
Yeah. Spooky action at a distance. And I think that's what's happened here in England. The stuff gets messed up, and it kind of messes with the play calling, as we found out, and Pete's ability to just be patient and let the run game happen. And because he was taking a lot of blame for,
and he should.
being the one who wanted to throw it downfield and rather than be patient with the run game in the second and third quarters.
It was very frustrating because last year we saw the kicker lose us a couple games and then we saw the coach lose us a couple games, right? Like we can point to like that Falcons game last year was a coaching loss, right? And this year we've already lost one game, not primarily because of the kicker, but didn't help, the Denver game. Yeah. And now this game, which upon retrospect and going back and really looking at it and rewatching things, this is clearly a coaching loss. And boy, I'll tell you what, the explanations afterwards, over all the way up through Wednesday here, have been piss poor.
It wasn't until Wednesday where it finally seemed like everybody had their story together, because in the press conference after the game, there was the confusion over Chris Carson and Pete Carroll saying that he was gassed because of special teams, yet Carson only played 2 special team snaps.
They were hard snaps.
That's a lot of work, apparently. Like, Carson was working really hard on special teams.
Yeah.
But then he comes out and says, well, I misread the situation and that there wasn't anything else going on there, which is weird because it's so unusual for Pete to even say that somebody was worn out, because then you're questioning a guy's conditioning. And
wasn't he like the most well-conditioned athlete in the world in training camp and like had done everything and looked amazing and blah, 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 blah? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What happened there? What, did you get out of shape in a week? Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, here is ultimately what he said on Wednesday when he was asked about it.
Chris did fine in the game. I'll try to help you one more time on this. I know you guys are curious about what happened. I screwed up. I thought he looked like he was winded early in the game, so I was just concerned about it. And I thought it was because of the special teams, because he hadn't had a lot of plays yet. And I talked to him. He didn't think he was winded when I talked to him afterwards. Today I mentioned it to him, but that was just a thought. But he played all the way through the third quarter. He was in the game plan all the way through the third quarter, and we always are going to spell a little bit. Rashad really got some chances in the fourth quarter, and I wanted to see him run and see what he could do, and he did fine. So that's all that is. There's nothing other than that. There's no changes in approach, no changes on the depth chart or any of that. So we should be really clear about that.
Here's the thing. Whether or not Chris Carson was quote-unquote gassed or not, there's other running backs on the roster, correct?
Yeah.
And from the 12-minute mark of the first quarter, from that point in the game, all the way until the 14-15 mark in 14 minutes, 15 seconds in the fourth quarter, we ran the ball a total of 4 times. 4.
Yeah, 4.
4. So this whole Chris Carson was gassed thing, that doesn't hold up. This whole, I told Brian Schottenheimer to start taking shots. What the hell are you thinking? You're down 7. Like this entire game was coached as if we were down like 30. I really don't understand it. And this is one of the things that I talked about before when I talked with the Bears guys, was I am terrified that the Seahawks would look at this defense of the Bears and say, oh, the front seven's their strength, so I guess we'll throw the ball instead of just pounding the rock. And I was like, just pound the rock, which they did on the first drive, which was fairly successful, got across the 50. Sure, it stalled out, but I mean, at least you got first downs and you're making headway. You do that over and over again, that time of possession doesn't get lopsided. The defense doesn't get gassed, who played their guts out, by the way. I don't want to sit and rail on the offense this entire podcast because I want to get to the defense at some point because it hasn't been talked about. But by God, it was as obvious as the day is long that the difference in this game offensively was when we ran the ball. First drive, it looked good, went away from it. Not only that, the subsequent drives, first down runs were like 4 yards a pop. You run the ball 4 yards a pop and you do good. Now, you get to the fourth quarter.
That's a successful first down play.
And you get to the fourth quarter when it comes time to the offense to get jump-started again. They start running the ball again. And lo and freaking behold, the offense hums right along because the defense actually has to respect the running game.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't complicated. I've been told this all offseason. This is what we're supposed to do. And here we are.
Well, from a game plan perspective, I can understand the desire to try and get out in front early on in the game because you are banged up. Bobby Wagner's not in there. KJ Wright's not in there. And you haven't been able to generate that much of a pass rush in the first game. So being on the road, wanting to put points on the board, wanting to score, and when you have a second-year quarterback, trying to put pressure on him by being up and ahead of them on Monday night, I can understand the desire to be in that position, But when you watch the first quarter and the way that your offense was having success, I feel like you should be able to look at that and go, okay, that's what's working right now. Let's do that. And the defense, apart from giving up that 95-yard drive because of penalties early on, they were doing well enough. So I feel like for a team that's been so good about making second half adjustments, it's kind of uncharacteristic to wanting to stick to that kind of game plan when you're having success doing something that you've wanted to do and said that you've wanted to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you can look at, too, that doesn't make a lot of sense is the idea that you're saying, well, score a bunch of points and get ahead to put pressure on the Bears. Well, how about the idea that suddenly, inexplicably, everybody on the defense was hurt going into the game. Every other day there was a new report and some dude was injured, Oh, B-Wags is out. What? When did that happen? Right. Just on and on and on. Trey Flowers is suddenly injured now. Oh, crap. When did that happen? So all these guys are injured, right?
Yeah.
You know what you can do to protect that defense with all those injuries? Hold on to the freaking ball.
Right. Don't put them on the field so much.
Exactly. And if you simply run the football, guess what you do? You keep that defense off the field.
Especially when you're not getting shut down. I mean, it's one thing when you go 3 and out running the ball, but they weren't doing that.
No, they weren't. And not only that, but once it became clear that Brian Schottenheimer or Pete Carroll, take your pick. I don't know which one of them made this decision. I think Pete might be covering. I don't know. But when it was clear that they were just going to abandon the run game for no good reason, the Bears defenders could pin their ears back, and that makes it even harder on an offensive line that doesn't pass protect well. It's maddening. Now, I've also heard that there's a lot of people, there's a few people in the Ring of Honor kind of going back and forth about this too, that this was as much on Russell as anybody else, and that he needs to get the ball out quicker. And I have some thoughts on that. We can get into that here in a bit. I don't know, kind of your feelings on that, Brandon.
I will say that Russell, through these first 2 games, has not looked like the Russell Wilson that we normally expect, because you expect fourth quarter Russell Wilson every time he goes out there and giving you a chance to win. And when you go back to the last game, having the ball late and seeing him fumble the football, that's uncharacteristic. Where it just bounces off his hands and he has to land on it, and then there goes all your time and not having any timeouts. The clock management hasn't been great, to where you have a lot of timeouts left for him late in the game so far. So that's a problem. And then we saw it again in this game where, turning the ball over late. That was a bad decision by him in the fourth quarter, on the pick 6. But I also put some of the blame on the play calling. I put some of the blame on Rashad Penny running not a good route against an experienced corner. Go back and watch the tape on that play. Rashad Penny does not. You have to sell the fact that you're going to try and go deep, at least potentially,
and then really break on the ball.
And he didn't do that. He looked like he okay, I got to go 6 yards and do,
and
then turn around. And when you do that, and Penny wasn't the only one who did this. The other receiver who was on the top of the screen, he did the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And choreographed it perfectly. And you saw the other corner break on that route as well. So they were keying in on it.
Well, when you've had relatively little success throwing it deep down the field and you come out and empty, they know what you're doing. You're going to run some pick plays, a slant or a curl. It's all going to be right at the sticks. Everybody knows that. Everybody. And there's no creativity. But with that said, getting back to kind of how much blame to put on Russell's feet here, I'm not going to get into the Denver game. I think we've already covered that. I'm talking specifically about the Chicago game here.
Sure.
That pick 6 was an awful freaking decision. That was terrible. And you can't do that. You can't do that. Now, looking back at the rest of the game, the number one critique that I heard was he's not getting the ball out fast enough, that he's holding on to the ball too long, and that's a cause for sacks. Well, here's the thing. I went back and I watched every single drop back of Russell Wilson throughout last game. Took very detailed notes, looked over the whole thing, and then forgot them all up at the cabin, so I'm going to do this off the top of my head. But in the first half, 6 of his 7 completions were first read throws. Hit the back foot, zing it to your first read.
Yeah.
He's getting the ball out quickly. It's when there's no time to get the ball out that everybody's like, well, he needs to get the ball out quicker. Well, he needs to hit the back foot on the end of his drop first.
Right.
Like, name me a quarterback in the league that throws the ball away when they're on their second step coming out from underneath center before they hit their back foot on whether it's 3, 5, 7-step drop. There's not one because it doesn't happen. It's an impossibility. So like this idea that he's not getting the ball out quickly enough and that out of these 6 sacks, at least half of them were on Russell. BS. When I went back and looked at it, there was 1 sack that was on Russell. 1. And that was in the second quarter. They had gone sack on the first play, which Khalil Mack just blew by Fetty. And again, Russell Wilson plants his back foot and Mack's got his hands on him. So what do you expect him to do? Not his fault. All right. Next play, penalty. Offensive line. I think it was Sweeze. Next play, Russell gets sacked for like 9 yards or something like that. And he was trying to do too much. He held onto the ball and he was moving up in the pocket and he was just trying to make something happen. And there was nobody open. And so he ends up getting sacked. Well, you know what? Even that one, which was clearly his fault for like holding on to the ball for too long. If you think of the situation that he was in, you're third and a quadrillion and you're just trying to make a play. What's the difference of another 9 yards when Michael Dixon can punt it out of the building?
Sure.
Nothing. There's no risk there, like in terms of an unfortunate outcome other than maybe getting strip sacked. The rest of it, like a lot of people point to the strip sack at the end of the game. He was a half a beat away from having that ball out in a completion. I will not neuter Russell Wilson's ability to scramble around and make plays because I'm afraid of a couple mistakes. And I don't want him playing that way.
Yeah.
And the other sacks, man, looking at it, I mean, those were some offensive line or scheme problems, guys uncovered on blitzes, things like that. I think when I looked at his 40 dropbacks, there were 3 plays that I looked at and was like, didn't like those decisions. Out of 40.
And I feel like that falls within the margin of a usual game.
Of a good quarterback.
Right.
You're telling me Tom Brady takes a snap every single time and makes the perfect throw and the perfect decision every single time?
It doesn't happen every time.
Huh. So I just, the people coming out of the woodwork saying Russell Wilson has regressed, you know, it's over, blah, blah, blah. Pete Carroll's ruined him. No, Russell's still doing all the exact same things he's always done. Just hasn't had the kind of opportunities because no one's open.
The receivers, and I mentioned this on the postgame show, they have something to do with this too. They have to get open. They have to hold on to the ball when it hits them in the hands. It's those are critical things on the receiver side. Yeah. I think that what people are keying in on, though, is just that expectation that we have for Russell Wilson in the fourth quarter for him to lead drives down the field because we saw it so much. Because he was so good in the fourth quarter last year. Yeah. And now his to start out the season. Yeah, well, really his whole career. But I mean, exceptional in the top in the league last year with the touchdown passes. And I think it's just that he's not living up to what we remember in our minds just from last season. And when you're going up against Khalil Mack, Von Miller on the road to start the season,
right?
I think we need to give it a few weeks still before we jump to any crazy conclusions here.
Yeah, he does need to clean up the turnovers. He does. And I think he will. That's not, again, that is uncharacteristic for him. And no, that does not worry me. Does it bother me that we lost 2 games that we should have had? Yeah. But again, it's hard for me to put the lion's share of the blame on Russ. A little bit there for sure, but the lion's share of it, no.
Too many turnovers for Russ, and I think that's what we're keying in on. Between the fumbles and the sacks and the 1 pick 6.
Well, and the sacks again. That not him. when you have Schottenheimer calling these deep patterns that are late developing, and he's got to take a 7-step drop, and Khalil Mack is breathing down Fetty's neck. Like, what do you expect to happen? He's got to hold on to the ball because nobody's turning around to come catch it.
This is what I expect, Adam. This is what I expect every single time.
2nd down and 7. Again, Russell from the shotgun with Penny beside him. Play fake to Penny. Russell lets it go down the far sideline. Reaching up, making the catch. Is it to touchdown? It is. Touchdown, Seahawks. Tyler Lockett, fights a defender in the back corner of the end zone. And from 19 yards out, the Seahawks put 6 on the board. They're back in this one at Soldier Field.
I just want nice little teardrop passes just right in Tyler Lockett's breadbasket in the back of the end zone on every single play.
He wasn't even open.
He wasn't.
That was unbelievable. And yeah, I would love it if Russ could do that. But he did make a lot of wow throws throughout that game. You're like, wow, I can't believe he fit that one in there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be fine. Brandon Marshall looked good again. You know, and as far as the run game goes, whether it's Carson or Penny, in retrospect, after going back and watching it, I honestly don't care which one of them gets the ball. I would prefer it to be Carson because I think he's the more bruising style of runner. And I think that would kind of help amplify the style of play that the Seahawks want to impose on people.
Sure.
And Penny was fine when he got in there. He wasn't great. He was okay.
Well, okay, it's his second game. And yeah. I understand. I really do understand Pete Carroll wanting to get him into the game because, you know, he's your rookie, he's your number 1 draft pick. And you know what? If they're running the ball and they're doing it effectively for the first quarter, for the second quarter, for the third quarter, and then they decide they want to change it up and go with a fresh back in the speed guy and Rashad Penny and to give him some carries in the fourth quarter, that makes a ton of sense to me. But when your power back, who's looking by everybody who's watched it, can clearly see that Carson's the better guy, right? Like we see that.
I would think so.
So it just makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, stop me if you've heard this story before, Brandon. But the Seahawks have a late round running back or an undrafted running back who performs really well right out of the gate when he gets his opportunity and then breaks his leg. And then when he comes back, is clearly the best running back on the roster, yet can't get a touch because Pete Carroll is preoccupied with his newest shiny toy that he just can't wait to frickin' play with at running back. Have you heard this story before? Does it sound familiar?
Yeah, it kind of feels like what happened to Thomas Rawls. And
my God, the ADHD when it comes to running backs for Pete Carroll is unbelievable. Choose a dude.
Pick a dude and go with it, yeah.
And then hand him the ball often.
It doesn't seem like it should be that hard.
No.
Yeah, 5 catches for 60 yards for Tyler Lockett. Brandon Marshall had 4 for 44. Yeah, 18-yard catch for Marshall in there, too.
He's able to make the catch when there's dudes draped all over him. His ability to catch contested balls, he is giving us exactly what Jimmy Graham gave us in the past. That's been an even trade-off so far, and it's been really cool to see.
Well, let's talk about the defense because we've spent more than enough time on the offense to this point, and defense was clearly the position group that shined on the field. Earl Thomas, Bradley McDougall, and with 2 interceptions in this game, Shaquille Griffin, here's the first one.
Takes the snap, hits his back foot, looks, now he's going to throw down the near sideline. Got him in out there, it is intercepted! Shaq Griffin picks it off at the 25-yard line. The ball was intended for Allen Robinson, and Shaquille Griffin leaps high in the air and gives the ball back to the Seahawks. And just like that, Mitch Trubisky turns it over, and the Seahawks have life here in this second quarter.
That had a look of familiarity to it, didn't it?
Yeah, I remember another dreadlocked cornerback who made plays similar to that. Shaq looked really good, and you can see him coming into his own. We all felt it coming from last year, and it's just been awesome to watch it happen on the field and really, really show itself. He was great. Let's give the rest of the corners some credit too. Coleman and Akeem King. And I know King got beat on a touchdown, but geez Louise, he was on the practice squad just a couple days ago.
I was a little surprised we didn't see Thorpe in that position.
Oh, Nico?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he was injured too, for all we know.
Yeah.
Because everybody on the defense was injured. Give Ken Norton a mountain of credit, being able to keep the Seahawks in the game, throughout the game, playing excellent defense against an offense that is pretty creative. I mean, it was jarring to watch jet sweeps and RPOs and all sorts of really creative wrinkles and bunch formations and tight ends that both run in motion and then split apart. And then all these really creative things that help create space and timing and rhythm on an offense. And yet Ken Norton was still able to keep that in check. And I thought it was an amazing performance overall. Give Mychal Kendricks credit for playing a heck of a game.
Oh, he had a highlight in there too.
He takes a snap. Here comes a blitz. Trubisky gets hit in the backfield. He goes down. Mychal Kendricks gets there. He is jumping. His defensive pals are jumping. And that time Trubisky never had a chance. A loss of 12. He drops back, and there is Mychal Kendricks in his grill.
Almost had a pick earlier on too.
He did. There's two roster moves this week that were kind of head scratching, and one of them was Mychal Kendricks. So let's talk about that for a hot second.
Okay.
The idea, some people are really upset about having him on the team. You know, oh, he's a convicted criminal. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, what did he do? What did he actually do? Did he do something violent? No. Did he try to make a couple extra bucks on the stock market? Yeah. Does that bother me in any stretch of the imagination? No. Don't honestly care. I'll take him for as long as we can have him. I mean, honestly, I don't see it as a big deal. I don't.
It is a crime, and it is a big deal.
Woo! So is jaywalking. Whoop-de freaking doodah.
I was trying to...
I'm not mad at like the average dude like trying to make a couple extra bucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's not the average dude, but
well, in comparison to the guys who are actual big players on Wall Street, yeah, he's small potatoes.
Okay. It does kind of feel though like I was trying to think of the blue collar equivalent to a crime like this. It kind of feels like a speeding ticket, like. There's, you can make money in the stock market, but there's rules and you're supposed to follow them, just like speed limits. Like we're supposed to follow the speed limit.
Right. But sometimes you just need to get somewhere. You know what I mean? Are you mad at Martha Stewart? Is she a horrible human being?
And, making $1.2 million off of insider trading. Does that just feel like if he only did 900,000? Would they just kind of look the other way? Like if you're going, 9 miles over the speed limit at a 70 mile an hour, like the cop goes, he's only going 9 over. Like he's technically breaking the law, but sure. Is it really worth my time?
Look, I mean, if it were me, like just if I'm the judge, it's like, how much did you make off of it? Well, 1.2. All right, give us 1.2 in fines and we'll call it good.
He put a statement out after he was released from the Browns following his guilty plea. And he did say, I would like to apologize. 4 years ago, I participated in insider trading, and I deeply regret it. I invested money with a former friend of mine who I thought I could trust and who I greatly admired. His background as a Harvard graduate and an employee of Goldman Sachs gave me a false sense of confidence. To this point, I had worked my tail off since I was 5 years old to become a football player. I was drawn in by the allure of being more than just a football player. While I didn't fully understand all the details of the illegal trades, I knew it was wrong, and I wholeheartedly regret my actions. Since the beginning of the investigation, I have fully cooperated with the authorities and will continue to do so. I accept full responsibility for my actions. Although I did not take any of the profits for myself, I am committed to repaying all the funds gained illegally and accept the consequences of my actions.
What a slime ball. I don't know. People who got their panties in a twist over this, like, you need to reevaluate your priorities in life.
One thing that changed it a little bit for me, because I wasn't super excited about it, and I think I mentioned that before, but this was over 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the time frame doesn't much matter to me one way or the other either, but like, I don't know. Out of all the ways that you can do bad, quote unquote, in this world, give me a break.
Yeah.
Give me a break. So the other roster move that I found a bit head scratching, I think you made more than I do, is the release of Tom Johnson.
Sebastian Thunderbucket released to make room on the roster for Shalom Luani, who did not play. And then the Vikings go, oh, you don't want awesome Tom Johnson? He was great for us last year. We'll take him back. And Tom Johnson's like, and Pete Carroll explained that they were hoping to get Johnson back.
We hope to. We were concerned, at the time we had to make a move because of an entirely different position. We were forced to with the guys that got banged up on the back end, and we had to try to see what we thought would happen. We had a couple younger guys that one of them could have gone as well. We thought they might have been more easily claimed than him, and we had really hoped and had talked to him like we were bringing him right back. He got a nice deal to go on, and so we wish him the best. Unfortunately, we weren't able to luck out and get him on back.
So you let Johnson go, with a guaranteed salary. He's already got his money. He's getting his money from the Seahawks. And then the Vikings come along and say, oh, yeah, we'll pay you to come to our team. Why would you not take that?
Yeah, keep getting them checks, Sebastian Thunderbucket. He's getting 2 paychecks now, and good for him. I'm happy for him in that regard. Now,
I don't understand maybe all of the injuries. Now, were there guys in the secondary that were more banged up than maybe, and maybe they just needed that depth?
I guess. Here's my question. When you bring Tom Johnson back in theory this week, right? If that was all part of the plan, who do you let go? So because that would be the same guy that you had to bring in, right?
Well, you put Luani back on the practice squad because that's where he was.
Great. So
because you needed, so I guess the theory is you needed Earl, you needed T2 because he played.
Sure.
And you needed McDougal, he played.
Yeah.
And so Delano Hill.
If one of those three got hurt, like T2 couldn't have just played a little more.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense to me for a key depth guy who is, somebody that Pete lauded in the offseason about being a great influence.
When you're the Seahawks and you've had as much trouble as you have generating a pass rush through the first couple weeks of the season, and that's the place that you're going to give up depth on?
Yeah, the pass rushing defensive tackle.
There's nowhere else.
Yeah.
You can't maybe say Mike Davis, who had 3 plays, or Trey Madden, who was in there for 6 snaps.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a defensive
dude.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. This is not a good week for the front office and the coaching staff for the Seattle Seahawks.
The Kendricks deal looks like really smart in comparison.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because by all accounts, other teams are like, wait, you can sign a dude who's going to federal prison in a few months?
Yeah, just waiting on sentencing? Yeah. And who knows? He may not even go to prison.
That's a good point. It's just sentencing.
Yeah, they could be like, all right, deferred sentence, pay this money back. I mean, there's a million things that can happen here.
Yeah, like Charles Barkley says, rich people rarely go to jail.
That's exactly right, Chuck.
and it could be after the season, so yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. But this was the one that I really questioned the most: the cutting Tom Johnson.
Yeah, not a good look for the Seahawks this week, but hopefully we're going to see the Hawks get their poop in a group here. Week 3 home opener playing Dallas. This again is another winnable game. Again, you end up seeing a defensive line with a pass rush that's above average.
Yeah.
Good Lord. It's just
DeMarcus Lawrence is good.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Crew. Yeah.
And Crew. Yeah. Well, Taco Charlton's starting to look good this year now.
I know.
Coming into the second year. One thing, though, that, and I was talking to a Giants fan from last week, and he said, one thing that you have that we don't, because neither of us have the offensive line. You don't have a quarterback who's going to lay down as soon as the pressure comes through, like Eli did.
Yeah. But, a lot of Seahawks fans over this last weekend, they would try to tell you that that's the better move.
Really? Rather than trying, they're tired of the spin move?
All the people that loved Russell Wilson and his creativity and were excited about all those chunk plays that he got doing the double pirouettes and, being Fran Tarkenton, right? Those are the same people coming out in mass being like, he holds on to the ball too long. Dude, it's one, they go hand in hand. And when you have the bad end of it, you can't just throw it out. Like you got to live with it.
I would like to see Russell Wilson outside of the pocket more.
Yes.
It almost feels like he's being, like they're trying to keep him inside the pocket more. And I don't know if that's the plan of Brian Schottenheimer or if it's the way that the defenses are scheming to try.
I feel like it's a little that, because it just doesn't seem like he has the escape lanes that he's normally had. Like, think about all the times he's been trying to escape and do some things. Like, he's got 2 or 3 dudes like hanging on him.
Right.
And
when the pocket is collapsing from the middle, like normally you have guards who can stand their ground and so you can step up.
Right.
But when that's not happening, when either, and Posick isn't getting beat so much as I think Sweezy was.
Got beat pretty good.
Yeah, but not as consistently, I think, as Sweezy was in this last game. So I think maybe Fluker coming back could help that. And maybe going up. I'm
excited about Fluker.
The interior of the the Cowboys defense, I don't think is as strong as the interior for the Bears defense.
I don't think so either. I think their corner play is better, though. Chris Richard has done a pretty good job with that secondary.
Yeah.
They can still get got, though. Looking for Uncle Will to have another big game. He hasn't been stopped all season. And I know it's 2 games, and it's just fun to say.
It is.
But he's kicking butt out there, man. And he looks like he belongs as a real, legitimate Zach Miller type tight end. And it's exciting.
He feels like in 2 games that he's ahead of where Nick Vannett is.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's physically more capable. No doubt about it.
Well, some other injury news. Justin Britt, day-to-day with a shoulder. I didn't even notice Joey Hunt taking over.
I did.
Did you?
Yep. Yeah, go back on the Ring of Honor page like that last drive. I was like, Britt must be hurt.
I think he was hurt when Wilson fumbled the ball and Britt kind of dove into the pile. It looked like he was hurting a little bit, but he came back after that, so maybe it was just bugging him too much toward the end of the game. But okay, so you notice Hunt in there.
Yeah.
How was he?
Well, I didn't notice him much after I noticed he was on the field. So
there you go.
That to me would say he did okay. And that's what you're hoping for.
They did sign a center to the practice squad this past week. KJ Wright did not practice this week, but Bobby Wagner did. It sounds like Bobby and Trey Flowers, depending on how they respond to their first day of practice, it sounds like they're going to be good to go for the Cowboys game.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. The Cowboys offense looked a lot better against the Giants than they did against Carolina, seemingly trying to open it up a little bit more downfield. Now, it looked good early, but then they kind of slowed down throughout the game, I thought, as the Giants kind of figured them out a little bit. I wish I could say I did a lot of homework on this matchup because I did none. But
hey, that's why we have Andrew coming on to talk about it.
Well, perfect. Should we get to Andrew so I don't have to sound like a moron?
Let's do it.
Okay.
And we now have on the line Andrew Guzman from the Common Ground Football Podcast. It's a Seahawks and Cowboys podcast, and you guys, you are obviously the Cowboys fan, and that's how long have you been doing that? And if people check out that show, what can they expect?
So we started that actually. The idea came about middle of last season, and then as we were coming closer and closer to the Seahawks game last year, I was like, we're always sitting around talking about football. Why don't let's just try a podcast. What we're putting down or what we're always talking about sounds good. Let's just see if others will listen to it. So we actually started our first episode the week leading up to the Seahawks game in December. And then we've been doing it ever since. So we had a little bit of a break in the off season, but we're back, and it's been fun coming into 2018. But if you tune in to listen, you'll just listen to 2, I'd say, fairly realist takes and real fan. We're not both complete homers, so we try to keep it. We try to keep it light. We've got a little bit of comedy, and every once in a while we'll talk about other things. Maybe Star Wars, for example. So, but no, Brian and I have fun, and we enjoy doing it. So,
well, good to hear. And we'll have to get Brian on the show sometime here in the future too, because I kind of feel weird starting off with the Cowboys fan portion of the show as opposed to the Seahawks fan. But it's Cowboys week, so we got to talk about this.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, you brought it up. The Seahawks and Cowboys did face off back in 2017 December, and the Seahawks went down there, came away with a win, 21-12 in Dallas. But much like the first couple weeks of the season, it was not a pretty offensive show for the Seahawks.
Right.
So Russell Wilson didn't even throw for 100 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns. And Prescott, it wasn't much better for him. 180 yards, 2 picks. One of those picks was one of our touchdowns.
Yeah, and that was the game right there.
Yeah, and it was close at halftime, 9-7. But the Seahawks score the 14 points in the second half and get the win. So
the only fans that would have been into that game would have been Seahawks and Cowboys fans because it was boring for everybody else.
But at that point of the season, it was kind of the playoffs were on the line and a possibility for both teams.
Yep, it was make or break, and it was Dez's first game back after his injury, and everything was on the line, and they just couldn't get it done. It looked promising, especially early in the second quarter when DeMarcus Lawrence, Wilson did his signature pirouette and run straight backwards for 20 yards and then take a sack. And it was like, okay, this looks like this is going to be in the bag. But if you don't put Seattle away, they're going to come back.
Well, so many places to go from there. Let's start with Dez. What's up with Dez? Why hasn't he got a job yet in the NFL? Why is he not back with the Cowboys at this point?
I personally think he's, he came in the league in 2010 and, had obviously a great career in Dallas, ended up as their all-time leading touchdown receiver. I think after 8 years and kind of everything he went through, obviously we had the immaturity stuff at the beginning of his career, and then everything just kind of followed him all throughout his career. I think he's okay right now with just kind of taking a break, taking a step back, and just kind of seeing how life goes. There's a national narrative out there that he's, a diva, this and that. But if you followed him from day one, you kind of know that that's not the case. So right now, I think he's just kind of enjoying life. He's enjoying watching football. I mean, you could tell by his tweets. But I think if a team really does need a wide receiver, and they're obviously maybe could have something go on this year as far as any kind of playoff success, I think he would sign. But right now, I think he's just okay being where he's at. And actually, as far as a return to Dallas, it's been brought up multiple times and just came up the other day before Dallas re-signed Bryce Butler. And then the story kind of came out that it was actually Dez Bryant who called Bryce and said, you should go back to Dallas. And this was prior to Bryce getting any sort of calls from Dallas. But it was kind of funny to hear that. But I think he's just happy being Dez.
Well, I guess the surprising thing was seeing the Patriots give up a 5th-round pick for a guy like Josh Gordon, who hasn't seen the field a whole lot, when a guy like Dez Bryant is right there and available. And they talk about the turnaround, the potential turnaround with Josh Gordon, but comparing that to the Randy Moss, and I see Dez Bryant as kind of a similar point of his career as Randy Moss was when he went to the Patriots.
Well, the thing with New England is, they are smart. They know all 10 options that could possibly happen when they bring in a player. I mean, like Brian and I were talking the other night, New England gave up a 5th-round pick for him. Great deal. If he booms, he's going to be one who really booms. If he busts, New England has no problem cutting him in 2 weeks. So, you really aren't giving up a whole lot. Whereas if you were to sign like a Dez Bryant, he's probably not going to sign for, in my opinion, he's not going to sign for a vet minimum. He, would be a little bit more than that. So with New England, they're smart with all of their transactions. So that's just kind of how I see that. But Gordon was definitely one when that name came out. I was like, oh, I would definitely be interested in him. But as we said earlier, with the dealing with Dez as far as his immaturity and having to kind of babysit and that kind of thing, which maybe that's not really the right word, but just kind of having to go through that. I don't think Dallas is ready to jump into that kind of commitment, especially with Randy Gregory currently on the team.
Well, Dez clearly had the passion, and you saw that a lot on the sidelines. And let's talk about, though, the trip for the Cowboys up to Seattle. This will be Dak Prescott's first trip into CenturyLink Field. But before we get to
during the regular season,
yeah, during the regular season, it's different. You can't compare preseason regular season.
No, I was there. I was there at that game, and it was definitely bittersweet to see, basically the end of Romo. But yeah.
About this trip up to Seattle, how is it knowing that you get to come up to Seattle and see Earl Thomas suited up as a member of the Seahawks and not as a member of the Cowboys?
It's perfectly fine with me.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, going through this since that game, with the locker room run and all of that business, it's just been that one story that has been just constantly talked about. And at one point I thought it might have happened, and if it was going to happen, it would have happened right around the draft time. But once it didn't happen during the draft, I was like, okay, well, he's not going to come to Dallas, and Dallas isn't going to give up the farm for him. So let's just put that one to bed. But I'm happy he's back in Seattle, and he didn't miss a beat when he returned game one.
Yeah, because Jeff Heath, that's a name that everybody knows, right?
Exactly. unless you're a Cowboys fan, you're not going to know who Jeff Heath is. But he's been a longtime starter, and he's one of the better players on that defense.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the defense because Russell Wilson and the offense, they've had some struggles, particularly going up against defensive lines, seeing Von Miller in week 1, seeing Khalil Mack in week 2. Are we going to get a little bit of a break with Lawrence and Charlton, or is this going to be just another tough week against DeMarcus Lawrence?
No, I think so. If Dallas is going to win this game, obviously, and the key to beating Seattle is containing Wilson and frustrating him, getting him, he's not the type of quarterback to throw the ball away. So if you keep pressuring him, keep hitting him, and keep getting him sacks, he's gonna fall. But with Lawrence, I mean, obviously he had the 14.5 sacks last year. It doesn't look like he's taking a step back. He's taking a step forward. He's going to be hard to block on that left side. And then Taco Charlton, who a lot of people last year, it was obviously with your first round pick, everyone expects them to be the superstar right off the gate. And there was a lot of, okay, he's a bust after week 6, which I can't stand. And if there's one thing that you'll learn about if you listen to the show is I don't like a whole lot of Cowboy fans. So I'll just put that out there.
So Seahawks fans might actually enjoy listening to that show then. Okay.
Exactly. But with Charlton, he was an undersized end coming out of Michigan, and he was growing into his frame a little bit. And towards the end of the season, he actually came on fairly strong. And everything that we've seen so far this year, as far as preseason and these first 2 games, he looks the part. He looks like he's going to be a great opposition to Lawrence on the left side. And then obviously you throw in Randy Gregory, who has all the talent in the world and who seems to have gotten back on, that straight and narrow. So look for him to come back this week. He was out last week with the concussion. Look for him to return this coming weekend. And I think this Dallas defensive line, and it's not only just the ends, but with Antoine Woods and Daniel Ross and Crawford, it's going to be another tough sledding for Seattle.
Well, one thing that happened this offseason was the move from Byron Jones from safety to corner. And yep. I know a lot of Cowboys fans, when they saw that, they're like, okay, they're making room for Earl. How has that transition gone for Jones to go from safety to corner?
For me, it had nothing to do with Thomas. For me, it had to do, so the first couple of years that Jones was with Dallas, he kept getting moved around. He would play safety for a couple of weeks, then he would come down and play slot corner if he needed to, or he would play, outside corner. And it was just, it was cool to see that versatility. And he was, decent at all of those positions. But the big kicker was getting Chris Richard down there. And the first day he was there, he said, Byron Jones is a corner. He's my corner. He's got the size, the length, everything I want in a corner. So finally having him in his spot and knowing that he's not going to be moved around has been good for him. And he's played well this year so far.
How are you guys liking Chris Richard so far? 2 games into the season.
2 games into the season, couldn't be happier. And I think he's one of the best offseason additions they've made. I think his time in Seattle, obviously he had a big part in the whole, Legion of Boom, that whole business, but maybe wasn't quite ready for a defensive coordinator position. Mm-hmm. So with Seattle letting him go, he's probably by far been the best offseason addition as far as the defense goes for Dallas. And he's just having, got Marinelli, who is fiery, but is obviously getting up there in age just a little bit. And now you've got the younger, more intense, I don't know if you can get more intense than Marinelli, but the younger, more intense Chris Richard. I mean, you see him in the videos on the sideline. He's got these guys' attention, and he's got them playing hard. And we've seen a lot of kind of what he's been bringing as far as his ideas and his scheme, because Dallas's defense has been blitzing a lot more just in the first 2 weeks already than we've seen in the past. So it's definitely exciting.
Well, giving up 16 points to the Panthers in week 1, just 13 points to the Giants last week. So holding your opponents under 20, is that a product of the defense or of the opponents that you've played?
Week 1, that was definitely the defense. The defense stood strong. I mean, obviously Dallas lost that game. The offense just couldn't get anything going. The defense held up, their end, and they couldn't pull through. Last week against New York, New York is tough to tell because they're so Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, they've got all these weapons, and obviously Eli's had some success, but we all know Eli. You rattle him a little bit, and he's going to turn into just dumb face Eli. and you thought maybe with the addition of Barkley, and obviously with Odell back with his new deal, and then you still got Sterling Shepard and everyone else. They've got all these weapons, and they couldn't seem to get anything going. But I really do think that as far as New York goes, Dallas, the defense just kind of took them right out of their game.
Yeah, it's just 28 yards for Saquon Barkley on 11 carries. That's a little surprising to see that stat line.
Yeah, that was definitely good to see, because he was my one big worry going into that game was Barkley.
Byron Jones matched up on Odell for most of the game, or is Jones a guy who tends to roam around and cover the best receiver now, or because it is Chris Richard, do they have him pretty much set to one side of the field?
They do have him set to one side. It's kind of interesting. We haven't seen a bunch of Jordan Lewis this year. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but Jones had Beckham for a little bit, and then Chidobe Awuzie is actually our number one corner, and his second year out of Colorado. He's the one that followed Odell quite a bit more during that game, but just the way that they kind of, as far as that zone defense goes, with having Jeff Heath back there, they were able to do a really good job containing Beckham. And then obviously with the exciting story of Jalen Smith, there was a couple plays where he carried Odell down the field. So,
well, let's flip over to the offensive side of the ball. And I tend to like to look at Pro Football Focus just to kind of get an idea of what players are doing well, which ones aren't. And right. I'm looking at your offensive line, and it looks different than I'm used to seeing as far as their grades go. Is there something going on, or is the grading just a little bit off through these first couple of weeks?
So definitely week one has skewed that a little bit. I mean, the offensive line did not play well at all. And obviously you have a new left guard with rookie Connor Williams. And then obviously Travis Frederick being out for an undetermined amount of time. You don't know what's going to happen with him, whether or not he's going to come back this year at all. The hope is he will, and that's why they didn't put him on IR. Definitely week one skewed that a little bit, but having Travis Frederick out is really kind of, that offensive line has taken a step back just a little bit. They were recovered a little bit this past weekend against New York. Backup center Joe Looney played very well, especially against Snacks Harrison, who is a beast in the middle of that Giants line. Obviously Connor Williams being a rookie, he's an undersized left guard. He's got some growing into his frame as well. Struggled week one, much better week two. So I want to say, by weeks 4 or 5, you'll kind of see what this offensive line is going to be like. And I don't really like to look at just 1 week or 2 weeks and kind of make the overall assumption. So we'll see what happens here in these next couple weeks.
I mean, if the Cowboys' offensive line just wants to stink it up for a couple more weeks, it's fine with me. That's all I'm saying.
No, I don't see that happening this week.
All right. Well, how about, the Legion of Boom has changed, but one thing you'll notice are safeties, Earl Thomas, Bradley McDougall playing outstanding. Shaquille Griffin had 2 picks in this last game against the Bears. So I still feel like 3 out of the 4 guys in the secondary doing pretty well. And then we have Justin Coleman, who, going into his second year with the team, an excellent slot corner. And I feel like that matchup with Beasley, I feel like Coleman can handle that. I'm curious, though, with Gallup, the rookie on the outside, and then with Hearns, how are you feeling about your receiving core as a whole?
I mean, obviously that was a big question going into this season with you got Witten leaving, you've got Dez leaving. There was a lot of questions in that wide receiver room. They didn't go out and spend big money. They did make Gallup one of their draft picks, who I was excited about when they drafted him, and everything we've seen in the preseason looked, he was going to be the next number one, and they were kind of just continue on without a hitch. But the wide receivers have struggled, but I don't want to put that all on them. I would say that's a little bit more of the offensive line not giving Dak time, to go through his progressions and hit those wide receivers. But Gallup is one that I'm excited for, and I think he in this coming week or next week everyone's going to kind of start hearing his name, and I think he's going to have some success this weekend against Seattle.
Well, Dak, you mentioned, and had a really rough week against Carolina, 6 sacks. We know what that's like with our quarterback, too. 170 yards passing, but then just 160 yards passing in the win over the Giants. Again, they didn't really need him to do a whole lot because you guys got up early. Right. So how are you feeling about Dak so far this season?
So far this season, I think week 1 was rust. I mean, he didn't really play a whole lot of the preseason.
Oh.
I mean, there was rust at the beginning, and then obviously the offensive line gave him no time, and then he was just kind of panicked, is what it looked like. I've had my problems with our offensive coordinator Scott Linehan, and I think part of the issue in week 1 was they had a game plan and an idea throughout the preseason that we were going to start making Dak more of a little bit of a pocket passer. He's not, and I don't think he ever will be a good pocket passer. He's best when he's running the read option and throwing, the intermediate routes, the 10 to 20 yards, that kind of thing. Dak is probably one of the best when it comes to that, and when he's obviously got some time, via the offensive line. But I think you saw it last week. He looked like he was having fun, and the game plan looked like everything it was from 2016, when his rookie year with Zeke. And I think as long as Dallas sticks to that game plan, they're hard to beat.
Well, one of the common themes for the Seahawks the first couple of weeks of the season, and you probably heard your co-host Brian talk about this, not running the ball enough. Are you noticing that same theme with Ezekiel Elliott and the Cowboys?
Week 1, it seemed like that was going on a little bit, but that was, it's hard when you're trying to run and the penalties hit you, and then you're behind the chains. You're not going to run a lot when you're, 2nd and 15, 3rd and 10, that kind of thing. But when you're always getting those positive yards and you're playing penalty free, it's easy to keep up that rushing game. Definitely a lot more success this past weekend against New York. As long as they feed Zeke the ball at minimum 15 times, I think they're okay. But no, watching the Seattle game, it was pretty shocking seeing how quickly they abandoned the run.
Yeah. So going into this game, do you feel like this is going to be a fairly even matchup? I kind of got that sense maybe from last year too, that these two teams are relatively similar. Or are you just kind of waiting for your team to break out this week?
I hope that the offense breaks out this week. I do think it's going to be a defensive game. A lot of people thought that with everybody that Seattle lost this offseason and the possibility of Earl Thomas, but he remains. A lot of people thought that maybe Seattle's defense was going to take a step back and not be as good. But everything I've seen, though, they've struggled. They've had their struggles, but I think that they're going to be a good defense. And Shaq Griffin has played well. I like both Griffin brothers. Frank Clark is the one I'm worried about. Yeah. I think he could cause some problems, and he was one that I liked coming out of college. I wanted Dallas to take him. But I think he can cause some problems. And then obviously the late addition of Mychal Kendricks, he's a good run stopper. And then, we'll see what happens if Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright come back. But I think seeing the matchup of Wagner against Zeke is going to be a fun one to watch if Wagner's able to play. And I think
Wagner's going to be able to play. KJ, I don't think is going to make it.
So the Wagner-Zeke matchup is going to be fun to watch. And then on the flip side of that, I think watching the Jalen Smith / Sean Lee against Russell Wilson matchup is going to be fun to watch. So I think this is going to be, as much as I want it to be an offensive explosion, it's probably going to end up being a defensive game.
Yeah,
that's in those games in Seattle's fans will stay in it. So
I can't believe I didn't bring up Sean Lee when we were talking about the defense. That guy's kind of the key to the Dallas defense. I feel like when he's in there, it feels like it clicks a lot more than when he's not.
It hurts when he's out, but the one thing towards the end of last season and the times when he's been not necessarily out hurt, but just kind of been, they'll take him out and let him save him from himself kind of thing. The defense hasn't missed a beat, and in years past, as soon as he's out, Dallas looks lost. But I think with the experience that Jalen Smith now has, and now with DeMarcus Lawrence having a leadership role, I think they're fine. But yeah, Sean Lee is, if he would have had 4 or 5 completely healthy years, everybody would know his name. Everybody knows, or most people know that he's a good linebacker. But if he's could stay healthy, he'd be an All-Pro, year after year.
Well, Andrew, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. If folks want to check out the Common Ground Football Podcast, and you have to make sure you put Common Ground Football in there when you search for it too, because there's
Correct.
a few common grounds out there. But
Yes,
if people want to check that out, where's the best place to go?
So you can find us on Twitter at Common Ground Football Podcast. I'm on Twitter at Andrew Guzman CGP. Brian is on, my co-host Brian is on Twitter as well at Wenatchee Seattle Sports Fan, WENSEA Sports Fan. We're on Facebook, Common Ground Football Podcast. And then as far as our episodes, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, TuneIn, the works basically.
Andrew, really appreciate you making time for us. And before you go, final prediction for the game this weekend.
So I know I said a defensive game, but I've got to stick to what I said during our podcast, and I'm going to say 31-17 Dallas.
Oh yeah, that doesn't sound defensive at all.
Well, after some of the news and just kind of reading a little bit more of what's been coming out, it's like, maybe this is going to trend more towards a defensive game, but I mean, we'll see what happens. And we'll see what happens.
An offensive explosion from Dak Prescott in his first trip in the regular season to Seattle. Okay.
You got it.
All right, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and go Hawks.
No worries. Go Cowboys.
A big thanks to Andrew from the Common Ground Football Podcast. We're going to have his buddy Brian on, the Seahawks fan, one of these days, too.
Yeah, I mean, he must be an awesome guy. I mean, he's a Seahawks fan. I mean, clearly.
And can put up with talking to a Cowboys fan on a weekly basis on a show.
Well, these last few years, it probably wasn't too hard.
That's probably true. Well, the Seahawks, we do have the history of last game going up against Dak Prescott and the 21-12 win that we talked about. I didn't go back and watch that game, mostly because I think I remember how ugly that was, especially looking at the stat lines.
Yeah, it really wasn't pretty at all. No doubt about it.
All right, Adam. Well, you know how much I like conspiracy theories. I feel like I've held off long enough to late in the show to discuss this.
Okay.
And the fact that I normally wouldn't have covered this, but it went all the way to the top. Like Pete Carroll was aware of this. So Ben Baldwin, I think it was the day after the game. Yeah, the 18th. He puts out a tweet at Ben Baldwin of The Athletic. And he says, "Woo boy, check out the sequence. Number 1, Shoddy calls in a play. 2, Wilson checks, gain of 4, and gets a first down. So Shoddy calls the play, Wilson changes it. Next play, Wilson changes the play again. And then Carroll calls the timeout, which Baldwin says presumably because Wilson keeps checking. And point number 5, Russell Wilson is visibly upset because there's still 12, 13 seconds on the play clock. It wasn't getting down to 0. And they called the timeout. Yeah. And I think it was the last timeout of the game at that point with 8-9 minutes left to go.
Yeah.
So it's not a great timeout. Not a great time to take a timeout.
No, I think I had posted immediately when it happened, wasted timeout, because it did feel like a wasted timeout. Pete Carroll said that they were, quote unquote, misaligned and that Russ didn't see it. I don't know about that. And he's like, well, and it was getting down there in the play clock. 13 seconds left on the play clock? Is getting down in the play clock?
That's not getting down. There's still a lot of time.
I don't think so either. So on a scale of 1 to 10, like how much credence do I give Ben's theory? Give it about a 5.5. Like, I think there's something there.
It's on my watch list. It's on my radar. But because the theory would be then that there's, like, if you're going to take this all the way out, into Crazy Town, there's the brewing power struggle within the team, and Russell is trying to, he feels like he can do better than the offensive coordinator can, and that might be true. Well, I mean, if he has the ability to make checks and it's critical moments, right? Yeah. And he's seeing something and it's working, that's what Russ is going to do. So I don't feel like it is a direct FU to Brian Schottenheimer, but I also think he comes up to the line and is like, oh yeah, well, he called, that's not going to work. It's predictable and they're all over it. I'm checking to this.
and it seems to work. The odd part would be Pete Carroll calling timeout to look at Russ and be like, dude, do what Shoddy's telling you when it's working.
Yeah, it probably was an alignment issue, but why the timeout needed to be called at that point. It seemed like kind of here's what Pete said with regard to it, because somebody, I think they were asking about Russell Wilson and how much leeway that he had within the system to make checks. And Pete was saying, oh yeah, well he has all our confidence. He can do that sort of thing. We're giving him, more control as he's becoming more of a veteran. And then I think he sensed the line of questioning was going toward this particular tweet from Baldwin that was circulated kind of in the Seahawks community. And so he addressed it.
Can I ask you another one, too? Because I heard that there was a question about when we called timeout. We were misaligned on that, and the clock was running down, and so we called timeout for that reason, and that was it. I know you guys have all kinds of theories, and not you guys, but there's all kinds of theories out there, and everything's fine. We were competing for the moment and trying to get – Russ didn't know why we called the timeout at the time, right immediately. He wasn't sure what it was, and that was all that we were dealing with, and we were trying to win.
Coach getting a little grumpy there. I feel like he should like conspiracy theories as much as the rest of us.
Well, he's a truther, right? No, I don't know.
That's the joke. I don't think he is.
I think that this was a tough week for Coach Carroll and a lot of questions to answer. There is a small part of me, deep in the recesses of my mind, I wonder if he's slipping a little bit. Just making a few too many choices from emotion rather than logic. Like this whole needing to get points in the second, third quarter and trying to open it up. That feels like an emotional response.
Yeah, he's always been emotional though. So I wonder if he just doesn't have. Maybe Bevel was better at checking him.
Yeah,
do you think
maybe.
that was maybe that's the case, or maybe there was somebody else within the team who checked him in those sorts of situations.
Well, I thought about that a little bit because one of the stories we heard when they hired Brian Schottenheimer was the run from Rex Ryan, right? And we talked about it just last week, I think. I told him to run the ball, and that's all he did.
Right.
Until I had to come and tell him to do something else.
Loyalty to a fault.
Right. So maybe Pete came up to him and said, yeah, let's take some shots. He's like, oh, okay, guess we're not going to run this ball thing anymore. We'll just chuck it down the field.
Whatever you say, Coach.
Whatever you say.
We do have some new members of the flock to welcome this week.
Hell yeah.
Start with a thanks to our associate producer, Dustin Mock. What's up, Dustin?
Good contributor in the Ring of Honor this week. A lot of good stuff from Dustin.
He's usually pretty good about right after the game, too. I should have him send that in via email because we could use some of those points.
Yeah.
In our,
that could work.
He could actually produce some of the post-game show.
Yeah.
Bryson McCartney, welcome to the flock in at $5. Welcome, Bryson.
Welcome.
Justin Cornwell in at $5 as well. Justin is, because you can't make the game on Sunday, Adam, Justin is going to, he's going to the Cowboys game. He's coming up for a wedding, and luckily we were able to get him some seats for the game.
Thanks for taking those off our hands, Justin. I appreciate that.
And Tom Owlette in at $3 in the Pick'em League. Welcome, Tom.
Welcome.
And Stephen Henschel gave us a little bit of a raise, up from $1.30 to $5. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, man. It's fun watching the flock grow, just kind of week in and week out. It's pretty steady incremental change.
But we do have to keep it up, too.
Oh, yeah.
We got lots of stuff coming out. We got Clinton Bonner's 3 In, 3 Out that just launched earlier this week. Go and check that out on YouTube. And we got some equipment to Clinton, too. I think we're going to be upgrading that segment of his in the future here.
Oh, yeah. Just give a talented guy the tools to do the job. That's really all it is. I'm excited to watch this week's. I haven't yet. It went up after I went to bed last night and, got up early to get back into town and do this with you. So I haven't watched it yet, but really fun. I'm enjoying the 3 In and 3 Outs a lot. And all of the comments on the YouTube, that's been interesting because since that's kind of new to us, it's been interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. I've been on places on YouTube where the comments are even more interesting, and not a place that I really care to read them.
Right.
The comments on YouTube have actually been pretty good.
Absolutely, for the most part. There's been a couple on there that there weren't shots or anything. They're they just say something that you got to blame the play calling. Like, that was one after the quick reaction show. And I was like, wasn't that like what we did the whole time?
Yeah.
So just some funny ones like that. But for the most part, pretty good and well informed.
Are you suggesting that there's people who leave comments that don't actually go and watch or listen to the content? I don't think that ever happens on the internet.
I'm not trying to start any more conspiracy theories.
Ever happens.
Nope. I'm sure everybody takes very well measured and careful thought after listening intently to the show and then makes a artful comment. That's how that goes on YouTube, right?
Every time. Every single time.
Right.
And we do bring some of those comments from YouTube onto the show every once in a while, especially when you leave some good ones. I know Max Webb is one of our YouTube commenters who generally brings some thoughtful responses.
Yeah. We actually sometimes read comments from the Facebook page or the Ring of Honor page, and I want to read one. It's something we didn't get to in the first half. Becca from the Ring of Honor, she says, so question. Everybody's losing their minds over this drop kick action. I've tried to research why it's cool or impressive, but all I can seem to come up with is that it's an old maneuver that fell out of favor when the football shape changed, but really no mention of any special skills or benefit of it. So why is it so rad? Just for the fun of it? And the thing is I'm with her on this. I'm very confused because I don't see the point of it in any way, shape, or form. Having Mychal Dixon drop kick a kickoff and a onside recovery. Like, maybe the onside kick, I get a little bit more just because the defense hasn't seen that. Maybe the recovering team hasn't seen that, and they'd be like, oh, what do we do? And somebody just loses their mind a little bit.
Maybe it's easier to bounce the ball up in the air with the onside kick. It didn't work.
I don't want to see it again. Let me put it to you that way. I don't see the point in it. I think it's just Pete Carroll showing off another new shiny toy.
Sure.
I don't understand it. It adds a whole nother element to the kicking off of the ball that it could go wrong. Let's not do that. I don't get it.
I could see where it maybe made sense on the kickoff to maybe get a little more air under it to try and pin him back deep after the penalty.
You can't do that off of a tee?
I think it's showboating a little bit.
It's dumb. I didn't like it.
I didn't mind it. And I do think it's cool that after something went out of favor, Adam, you're one of your favorite quarterbacks of all time was the last one to do this.
This is part of my problem with this. The last memory I had of a drop kick, the last one I've seen done in the NFL was by Doug Flutie.
Yeah.
And that's how he went out with the drop kick. Why are we taking that from him? For no reason.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't like it.
You don't want your memories to be taken from you.
I don't need more drop kicks in my life. I had exactly one, and it was enough.
But the cool part about it, I mean, it's not that cool, but the cool part about it is that nobody does it, and we have a guy who can.
Whee! I mean, Dixon was great otherwise. I mean, he had the one shankopotamus. He did shank one.
And that was a bad snap.
But beyond that, I mean, really good. Really good again.
I'm happy with him.
Once is a coincidence, twice is a trend. Does it for a third game in a row. We got ourselves something.
Mentioned YouTube. We mentioned Facebook. And we also take voicemails. And we got one, Adam.
Yeah! All right! See how excited you can make me just by doing this, people? Thank you.
Annalisa called in and left us a message.
Hi, guys. It's Annalisa. I'm calling for two reasons. One, to prove to Adam that I know how to use the phone. And two, that I was wondering, how come there is no New York chapter of the Seahawks Bristol Club? And I feel like since you guys run the world, for me at least, with everything Seahawks related, that you should be able to either tell me the answer to this or make it happen for me. Because I've tried several times. We're a big city here, and there are plenty of us here. We're Hawks fans. No Bristol Club. Anyway, love you guys. Bye.
That was awesome. It's cool to see people use phones for phones. I enjoy that. And see how much more personal it is to hear from Annalise, just
hear the sound of her voice.
Yeah, it's just so much more warm. I'm a big fan of it. I hate the texting. I just want to call people. It's just better. And so, no, I enjoyed that a lot. But I'm sure we've got some information on New York Seahawkers.
Well, I don't think there is a chapter necessarily, but, I mean, there's Carlo East.
Right.
The Seahawks bar. Go to Carlo East, and you'll be surrounded by Seahawks fans on game day.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you don't have to be a Seahawker to I mean, that'd be cool. I think maybe Annalisa should start it up.
There it is. I was going to say, this sounds like opportunity to me.
I mean, you can't just point out a problem and then be like, yep, somebody else should handle this. I recognize the problem,
right.
But yeah.
That's how most people operate, really.
But Annalisa's busy too, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a life and all. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So, if it's not going to be Annalise, somebody in New York, I mean, I'm looking at you. You know who you are. You're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I actually do have a lot of free time. And yeah, I am actually a big Seahawks fan. And yeah, I could probably do that. Yeah, if all those things just matched up for you, like, go do it. You're the one.
That's your thing.
You've been told.
And if all else fails, just go to Carlo East. That's where everybody is.
Do not give people an escape, okay? An out.
Well, moving on, we got some email, Adam.
Oh, fantastic.
Brian in Portland, he joined the flock last week. He sent in a comment. He's also at Old Dirty Noonan on Twitter. All one word.
That's pretty great.
Brian says, hey guys, just wanted to drop a line. I'm a recent flocker living in Portland, Oregon, but I'm actually from beautiful Butte, Montana.
Butte, America. If he's from Butte, he knows better. It's Butte, America.
Butte, America. I've been listening to you guys for 3 years, and I love the show. Sorry it took me so long to join the flock. I justified it previously because I'm a season ticket holder, so I thought that was enough Hawkra to get the Hawks through the season. I had extra anxiety leading into this year, so the Saturday before week 1 went 12-12. Thanks for the show. Keep up the good work, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. No, appreciate that. In the idea that, you know, can increase the Hawker of the show by, you know, donating and becoming a little flocker is definitely there. One thing, there was a comment on YouTube where somebody joked that they were kind of like, well, and I'm one of the freeloaders, you know, and which is great. Like, I hope everybody knows what I'm calling people freeloaders. Like, it's tongue in cheek. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't really think you're a freeloader. Like, you know,
I mean,
I think it's funny.
You do think that they are. You're just not as mad about it as you could maybe come across sometimes.
Exactly. I probably sound a little more angry about it than I actually am. Because one of the things when we started the show, right, Brandon, was like, it's always going to be free. Like, that was something that was important to us, and so it is.
That's what podcasting's about.
But if you want to be a lot cooler, you just become a little flocker.
Getintheflock.com. Be like Brian.
Yeah. Noonan.
And you can do things like get on our VIP Flocker leaderboard, which JPC Hawker and Seabass with laser beams both at 22 points.
Okay, neither of them picked against the Hawks, right?
Yeah, I think so. We did. Somebody had an explanation here, and I have it here in the email. We're going to get to it.
Okay.
And because I want to bring this up with you just to see what you think about it. If there's ever...
You already know what I think about it,
If there's ever an okay time, I'm curious.
Okay.
But the winner this last week was, and this is on the VIP Flocker leaderboard, JM Quintero. So Jose, he got in just this last week. I don't even think he was in for week 1, but Jose came in and he got the $25 fanatics.com gift card.
Wow, out of nowhere.
Like
the surprise phenom, Jose.
One weekend, and gets it done. Shaq Squatch was the overall winner.
That one, that's great.
That's a good name.
That's great. I'm really pleased with that one.
And I know Shaq Squatch is a member of the flock, but is in at below the $3 level. Okay. So not on the VIP Flocker leaderboard, but definitely a position now going forward to be in a good spot for the Russell Wilson signed print.
Right.
But what I was thinking, you know, for everybody who's below the $3 contribution level at getintheflock.com, I think we should put those are the team name winners we should pick from at the end of the season. So if you win a week, and then we do like a bracket style competition for the week 1 winners, and we come up with a prize for the team names.
I like it,
because we do need a team name competition of some kind.
I'm trying to pull up my my picks from last week. I don't even know how I finished up. How'd you finish up?
I'm at 15 total right now. I got 8 right, 8 wrong this last week. And looking at the overall leaderboard, Shaq Squatch takes control. 24 points overall in that first spot. You got Travers 69, Motor Yoda, And Seabass with laser beams. Oh, let's go on all the 22 points. Hawk Dude, Amingo Ate My Baby, Jesper Sacco, JP Seahawker, Wolfman 411, rounding out the top 3.
Did A Dingo Ate My Baby, did they recycle their name from last year? I feel like that was their name last year.
Oh, Mingo wasn't on the team last year.
Oh, Mingo Ate My Baby. Oh, that's even better.
I think there's actually 2 Mingo Ate My Babies in the league. I think there's one with no exclamation point and one who uses the exclamation point.
Gotcha. All right, so you were at, 15?
15, yeah. I got 7 right last week, 8 right this week.
Okay. I ended up at 19.
You're 4 ahead of me.
Yeah.
But
this is how this always goes. I take the early lead, and then somehow at the end of the year, weird crap happens when people are resting players, and you end up beating me.
Yeah.
And then I get really salty about it.
Well, at least you know what to expect this year.
No, get out of here. You're going down. Hold my catfish, son.
Hold my Dixon. I like that name.
It's my favorite for myself so far. out of the Pick'em League ones.
Well, Reginald emails in, says, I just listened to episode 218, and I feel I need to explain why I pick against the Seahawks in the Pick'em Leagues.
Well, this better be good.
My family has been doing a family Pick'em League for years. And back when we first started, every time I picked the Seahawks, they lost. And every time I picked against them, they won. So I sacrificed that one pick and picked the other team to win, because more times than not, the Seahawks end up winning.
That's a full explanation?
Look, every fan has a weird superstition and ritual that they do before every game. And for Reginald, this is his superstition. I'm calling bullshit on this one. Now, I think this is just an excuse. He might as well have said Chris Carson was gassed. Like, this doesn't ring. No, sorry. That's just an excuse to cheat the system. You pick your team. Well, it hasn't worked out very well for the first 2 weeks, so it's time to do something new. Yeah, exactly. Time to switch it up. That's some BS, dude. I mean, Chris over in the UK can't take credit for the loss, for every loss. No, part of it was my fault, too. I'm still trying to find the correct lucky gear for this year. After last season, I felt like it was time for a change. You know, I think the lucky hat is exhausted. I think it's time to put it out to pasture. So I'm trying to find the right hat-hoodie combination. It just hasn't quite come together yet. I tried something new this last week. Didn't quite work, so it's partially on me. I think we're kind of all in that kind of space. You know, I have this Tyler Lockett jersey that you know what's wrong with that jersey. But I haven't yet worn it for a game yet, because I don't know how to exactly test out the luckiness of it. There's only one way. Yeah, well, Lockett's had 2 touchdowns the last 2 games. Yeah, maybe don't wear it. You just don't want me to wear it. Yeah, well, yeah, for the safety of everybody else's eye bulbs. Those green jerseys, I'm so glad they're gone. Hank Sink emails in, says, to the supporting members of the Seahawkers podcast, Hank Sink, the unofficial hype man for the show, is calling on your support. Although Adam may never embrace the idea of a gas-powered leaf blower, we can't give up on dragging him into the 21st century. We know he believes in YouTube. I believe if each one of us 300 little flockers can convince just one fan to support the show, we can go video. Yes, video. We can bet Brandon is up for the challenge. I believe 600 members will convince them. If your Fairweather fan friend isn't better at life than Skip Bayless, then do better and donate $1 a month in their name. Let's go video. Ooh. Go Hawks. From your PA Hawk. PA is in Pennsylvania. I think I said Paw Hawk last time. Yeah. PA Hawk. Hank Sink. Excellent email with a lot of amazing points. I love the idea, too, of like, well, if your friend's not going to step up and do it, then you do it for them. I mean, it's kind of like going to church and like praying for somebody who's like a godless heathen like myself. I'll pray for you, Adam. Them out. I'll pray for you this weekend. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't do it. I know other people got my back. It's fine. I don't have to worry about it. You know? But, yeah, no, I like that idea. And then the idea of video, man, I'm down. Okay. Yeah. If we get to 600, 600's a good number. I'll video, every week. No problem. You get all the mistakes. I mean, You get all the times that Adam cracks up or has to take a break to figure out who his do better and better at life are before the end of the show.
Yeah, like every week.
You get the full experience of what I get to see every week.
Yeah, and if we do it right, Brandon, I hope we do. Just because he threw me under the bus there. So I'm going to do the same, okay? I hope everybody would get to see the full 30 minutes that we sit here, not ready to go when we should be ready to go.
That's when you should be getting your do better and better life together, when I'm staring at the screen going, why is this not working this week when it worked last week?
Right, because you changed something.
I change it every week.
Something updated. Man.
All right. Well, that's a good goal. I'll have to update our page at gettingtheflock.com for that 600 member goal. And thanks, Hank. Maybe you can be our official hype man one of these days.
That's fine. Does he want the title? You can have it. Let's go. Hype it up.
Clinton Bonner's pretty good at being our hype man, too.
That's true. I feel like that was disrespectful to Clinton.
Couple more emails here. One from Zach in Santa Monica says, no. This is what I was yelling after listening to other podcasts and radio shows about the Seahawks' latest loss to Chicago. Yes, is what I was yelling after listening to your drunk-ass instant reaction show. You nailed it. Why are all the other shows getting it so wrong? Making an excuse for this player or that misplay. It's the coaching. The coaching is why the whole team's body language, including Russell's, says we have already lost before the game even began. Coaching is why they seem to be making decisions on a whim and not making decisions to win the game, like not Ryan and Carson. You guys were so on it with what you were saying. From Zach.
Well, thanks, man, because only one of us was drunk, just for the record.
Yeah.
I don't know, how bad was I?
It wasn't bad.
Okay, good.
It was noticeable. I think people in the Ring of Honor were trying to make a game of trying to guess how many beers you had before the show.
It would have been 8.
Okay.
Yep. But they're those like Trulies, the water beers, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the cheerleader beer. Yeah. So they're not.
It takes 8.
Yeah.
It's not like the having 8 cold smokes. Totally different.
I'm not hardcore like Clinton Bonner, who went out and got a tolly of the Natty Daddy. So there's one thing to drink the Natty Ice, which is 5.9, but the Natty Daddy's like 8% or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like if he was conscious by the fourth quarter after drinking that, I'm hats off.
Well, it's just a 3-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm really glad that Zach enjoyed the post-game show. That was I was really glad that we had the opportunity to do that, because I felt like I was like, these are the things, and you were like, these are the things, and we knew what the things were. And going back, after 2-3 days after, and kind of listening to some other things and reading some other articles and stuff like that, I was like, yeah, I think we hit the nail on the head.
That was my one biggest concern about doing the post-game shows.
You just whiff.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I know what I'm talking about, but then you wait a couple days and you go, oh, yeah, that wasn't it. But I felt like we got most of the points.
Yeah. And I think it's a little easier for me because I just wing this crap either way, where I know, like, you prepare. So I can see how that would be a little more alarming for you.
It's a little bit. And I think it's taken for me the 5 years of doing this to be able to go into a show with no preparation and just be able to wing it.
Yeah, and just be Brandon.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because you're lovely just the way you are, Brandon.
The Bruno Mars song.
You mean the Minister of Halftime, Bruno Mars?
Yeah, he even did it at the Super Bowl. That song that I'm thinking of.
Apparently, the halftime this year is going to be who is it? Maroon 5.
You don't know well, why do you say it with a question mark? You don't know who Maroon 5 is?
Number one, not particularly, and then who are the Maroons 1 through 4? Like that's the thing that is confusing to me. There was a headline on Bleacher Report. I wish I could remember exactly what it said, but it went something like this: Waka Flocka Flame speaks out against Maroon 5 halftime show. That headline was gibberish.
Don't you disrespect Waka Flocka.
Is it Waka Flocka or Waka Flocka Flame? Or is like Flame like something he did to the Maroon 5? Was that his take? I don't know. Like, just bring back Bruno Mars.
And when you smile, the whole world stops and stares for a while. 'cause girl, you're amazing. Just the way you are.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
There you go.
See, when I said just that you're lovely just the way you are, I was thinking Mr. Rogers.
Oh. Simon near London says, first of all, love you guys. You make stuff like this as bearable as it can be. And thank you for that. Staying up till 4 a.m. to watch the Seahawks lose like that. Poor show. Watching Ifedi accept the contact from Mac by backpedaling every time wanted me to fly right out and take him out of the game. I don't blame Wilson that much, but everyone knows. And even they said it in the preseason. Run, run, run with a tad of running, especially against a good D-line. Why are we waiting for the fourth quarter to unlock anything other than a run up the middle? Thanks again from Simon.
Thank you, Simon. I don't know. Did we talk about the Ifedi thing where the tight end would chip?
You brought it up in the postgame show. Okay,
all right. Because I just that was really odd. That was really odd. I mean, it's just playing out of that's playing scared.
That's probably what it was.
Or that's poor coaching.
I don't know.
Get your ass out there. Like, get out there and meet him right after the chip while he's off balance. Take advantage of this.
I could see that going poorly for Ifedi, though, too.
Well, what? Because that was better?
Because how many times...
To just run backwards until he was basically sitting on top of Russell Wilson, then try to engage Khalil Mack and get whiffed. If he does it 4 yards further away from Russell Wilson, it takes even a little bit longer for Khalil to get there.
Yeah, if he runs at Khalil and Khalil olays him like a matador, and he ends up on the ground, I
not
feel
sure
like
that's any worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a worse look, I think. Maybe. All right, Adam, what do you say we get into some do better and better at life?
Right on. Let's do it, bud.
My do better this week. Adam, have you ever had customer service that's so bad that you're pretty sure the company is playing like a huge practical joke on you just to see how long they can string you along?
Here and there. I mean, for the most part, I give a lot of grace to people that work in like call centers. I did the DirecTV tech support for a couple months.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's a tough gig. But yes, there are definitely times where it comes to a point where you're just like, all right.
Yeah. Well, I kind of got to that point this past week. I have an Asus monitor and it's been flickering on and off. And I have two of the same monitors. The one flickers, the other one is fine. So I call them up. I'm like, hey, this shouldn't be happening. This is pretty new. And they're like, oh, yeah, send it in for a warranty. They send me the label. Everything's good so far. Well, I ship it to them, and there was no damage to the box. So I think what might have happened, FedEx maybe just dropped it. They didn't know to be, extra gentle with it, or something fell on it or whatever. But then the screen cracked. And they're like, well, you're going to have to pay for this now, or we can send it back to you. And I'm like, well, what about the insurance? Because, FedEx insures everything. They're like, oh, yeah, you fill out the claim and take care of it. So I'm like, okay, I'll fill out the claim. So I do that. They end up sending me the monitor back. And FedEx, they get back to me and they said, oh, yeah, you know what? You can't file this claim. You didn't pay for the shipping label. And so
didn't pay for the shipping label.
Yeah, the Asus, they paid for the shipping label because it was a warranty issue. So they wanted me to ship it to them. They're like, and so this was 2 months ago. Every single week, I've emailed them saying, okay, FedEx says that I can't file the claim. I have the monitor that needs to be fixed. What do I do next? I just want to know what to do next.
Right.
Every week I send them an email. No response. Other than to say, oh, yeah, I'm looking into your issue. I'm totally going to get back to you. Sorry, we have to go through this. And then so 6 weeks goes by. And then I get an email back that says, oh, here's the pictures of the damage. Yeah, you sent me the pictures of the damage the very first time when it showed up. And that's what I gave to FedEx to file the claim that they said that I can't file. They sent me a letter saying I need a waiver if I'm going to file this claim. I need a waiver from Asus to get the reimbursement. And they're, oh, no, we can't give you that. I'm like, okay, you can't give it to me.
Can't or won't?
What? Well, won't. And that was another thing I was trying to get at. So I just, whether you won't or you will, I don't care. I just need to know what to do next to get my monitor fixed and working again, because not only is it flickering, now there's a crack in it. So on the email with the pictures, it says, if you need to follow up for better service, call it or use our chat on our website or call into the call center. So I'm like, okay, fine. I can't do email apparently. So I hit up the chat. I'm like, what do I do next? They're like, oh, I can't help you with that. You're going to have to call in. Let me get you the number. Okay, fine. I'll call in the number because it did say chat or phone. So I call in the call center. They're like, oh, did you just get an email from us? I'm like, yeah. And it said to call or chat if I had questions. Oh, no, you can't call into us. You need to reply to that email. Nowhere in the email does it say that they want any kind of response from me. So wow. I finally emailed them back, and they got me a shipping label to send them back the monitor that they shipped back to me. That was broken.
Good God.
And they said, oh, yeah, that was a mistake. We should be the ones to file the claim. 2 months.
Jesus.
2 months later. So for ASUS, for not having your poop in a group, do better.
You're telling this story. You're talking about how you're sending the email, once a week, every week.
Yeah.
And I just picture you as being like the Andy Dufresne of monitor repair. Like, sending in a letter every week to the state legislature for books, at the prison. And then basically it's almost what you had to do was almost the equivalent of having to crawl out of a sewer pipe to escape prison just to get your monitor.
I feel like Andy Dufresne. Yep.
Yeah. That's hilarious, man. Well, it's a good thing that happened to you and not me. Because that's what makes people crazy. That and Brian Schottenheimer. Those are the two things that make people crazy.
I just wanted to know what the next step was, and I couldn't get an answer. And I'm kind of going through the same business with my when I was rear-ended in Seattle.
Yeah. Or
a hit and run. Yeah, that I still haven't. I'm still waiting to hear back on that.
Yeah, well, shocker.
It turns out if you hit somebody in the parking lot, just don't worry about leaving information because the police don't investigate it. The insurance company, they don't really care.
No.
So
no, nobody's got your back.
No.
The only time that's happened to me in a parking lot, somebody in the adjacent store, all the stores had like a glass storefront, and they were in the barbershop while I was at the photo lab, and they had noticed the person like back up into the front of my car, and quickly jotted down the license plate number and then put it on my car. Yeah, that was the only way, and I was still getting the police to still like follow up with that was difficult.
Oh yeah, the insurance company doesn't care. They don't care that there was a witness. They got the video even of the person driving away. They're like, well, there's no video of them actually hitting it. Like, how do you think that? And they said, and the license plate isn't clearly visible either. How do you think the witness had enough information that we knew even who to go to?
Right.
It's kind of coincidental that it matches the description of the person whose car it is.
Well, Brandon, in the terrifying future, there may be an answer to this problem that there's not enough witnesses and evidence to bring these things to light. Because my do better this week is for scientists in the U.S. and Italy who are working together. And this is the title or the headline of the story. AI gliders learn to fly using air currents, just like birds.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. This is what these glider drones are doing that are AI, right? Like independently thinking. They are being able to be launched into the sky now. And instead of having to have propellant, they're now using the same learning mechanisms that birds use to learn where the thermals are, where there's columns of hot air that rise. Because sometimes you'll see a bird and they're flying and soaring, doing all that. And they're gliding, or they're even in just one spot, or they're circling upwards, right? And then gliding back down. That's riding thermals. And it's something that is in nature. And is a really cool feature for birds. But now we're giving that to AI and terrifying air drones. This is a terrible idea. This is just like the Terminator, literally Skynet.
This is worse than the robot cheetah.
Yes, because it doesn't even need fuel. It'll just perpetually circle in the sky and watching all. This is a terrible idea. So the scientists working to bring about the end of humanity, do better.
Sometimes scientists are a little too smart for their own good. Like, hey, can we do this? Rather than going, should we do this?
Yeah, it's usually a little past the, looks like we can. Oh, we probably shouldn't have done that.
Right.
It's usually how those go.
Yeah. Oh, the drone birds watching over us everywhere.
Thermal riding, and it's a difficult process. It's not like this is easy to do, to like identify and ride thermals and all that stuff. I mean, it's complex crap. They've got these terror drones beginning to circle the earth.
Then they'll go, and then the scientists will go, I wonder if we can put guns on these.
Yeah. And then, can we get them back down?
Can we recall these?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happens when the AI decides, I don't want to be brought down? And thanks for the gun.
Yeah. Birds remake coming soon.
Oh, man.
That'd be more terrifying than the original.
They best not fly that crap over Montana. Everyone will get gunned down, I promise you.
That's true. Although, the new sport of it.
Drone shooting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's political ad campaign time, right? And like that's it. That's what you do in a Montana political ad: is you either shoot a drone out of the sky or a TV.
Montana political ads are my favorite ads of any political ads because it's a competition as to who can be more Montana.
Yeah, yeah.
So you get to see dudes who have no business shoveling manure out there looking like that's what they do every day.
Their whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, it's pretty funny.
It is. It's really funny. You're like, yeah, dude.
I fly fish and drive a truck. Watch me shoot this TV.
I don't know why they speak in a Southern accent.
It don't matter. Never mind, Brandon. Just sound more down home.
That doesn't sound Montanan at all to me.
I know, but but they do. It's unbelievable. So yeah. Maybe they can shoot the terror drones out of the sky.
I'm an 18th generation Montanan, and I got my ranch that my great grandpappy had back in the day.
Bootstraps and hard work. That's all us family's been about, and that's what Montana's about. Public lands, guns, public lands, and then they end the commercial.
Yeah.
Just say public lands a few times, and you're good.
Yeah.
It's the one uniting thing in Montana by far. Everybody's all on the public lands.
Well, if you don't hit those topics, you're not getting elected. It's going, he didn't even bring up public lands.
Dude, he didn't even shoot a TV. Is this guy even a man?
Moving on to Better at Life.
All right. Hit it.
My Better at Life this week is for my oldest daughter, Adam.
Oh, this is a personal. All right.
Yeah, this is a personal one. I like the way, when people think outside the box a little bit. Like we've all come across things that we go, I wonder why that's done that way. And then we try and think of maybe why it is. Mm-hmm. Well, this last week, I found out that my oldest daughter did not know what the flat sheet that goes to the bed is actually used for. It's that layer, the sheet that goes in between the comforter and the fitted sheet. It's a second layer of blanket. It's just a light blanket. You don't really need it.
Okay. All right. Because I'm with your daughter on this. I've never understood the point.
Well, here is the point. And maybe you'll agree with this. But she thought you were supposed to sleep on top of the flat sheet on your bed. And then if you got crumbs on that sheet, then you shove that layer down to the bottom and sleep on top of the fitted sheet.
Right.
So she's either a genius.
It's a crumb guard.
It's a crumb guard. I think my daughter's a genius. Or I'm a failure as a parent.
Can it be both?
I'd like to think that that's a really smart idea. Like, I never thought of a crumb guard on a bed before.
Yeah, and you're letting your kid crumb up their bed. So, like, she's A, genius, and B, you're a terrible parent. Well, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive.
She would go, well, my dad's not so dumb that he would let me eat in bed without a crumb guard.
True.
So that's what that sheet's for. My oldest daughter, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Look, that is the most logical explanation I've ever heard for a top sheet. I've never used one. Never. Unless I literally use it as like the lightest of blankets, like in the middle of August.
It's never warm enough though.
Oh, sure it is. Like when it's dreadfully hot and it doesn't get cold at night.
Even when you open up a window though, sometimes it's just not. I don't know.
No, it's a rare occasion. That's why I don't understand I don't understand the value of it. You know one thing I do understand the value of, Brandon?
What's that?
Oh, Fitzmagic.
Hey. Are we both singing on this show?
Yeah. I love me some Fitzmagic. My God, Brandon, I know it's been done up like over and over again, and everybody's probably tired of hearing the presser and all that stuff. But by God, Fitzmagic is a gentleman and a scholar.
He's a national treasure.
Badass. He's a national treasure. The beard is amazing. I love him. I just love the beard. He's one of my favorite dudes out there. That guy that shouldn't be good, who just sometimes is really good. And he's going out there and just putting on a show as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting quarterback. I mean, let's not even talk about the press conference for half a tick, but the performance on the field has
takes down Drew Brees week 1, right. Then takes down the defending champions in week 2.
And kind of makes it look easy.
Yeah.
Just shredding people, just dropping dimes, bombs. That's what he's doing.
When everybody else was saying, oh, without Jameis Winston, man, the Bucs are probably going to go 0-3 to start the season.
Right. No.
And then where are they going to be?
No, Fitz said no. He came out there and he's just going to be, and he must be just beloved in that locker room.
Oh, yeah.
Like the move to go out there and put on the Conor McGregor costume,
the aviator sunglasses, and apparently stole Deshaun Shedd's threads.
Deshaun Jackson's, the
Deshaun Jackson's threads, yeah.
I think it was the jewelry.
Oh,
I think it was the jewelry.
I thought it was the jewel. Well, I think it was. He said, is any of that? I think in the press conference they asked him, is any of that yours? And he said, well, the chest hair is mine.
Yeah. Just unbelievable. And I think it was a brilliant move. I think that's something that goes a long way with your teammates in the locker room.
It goes a long way with everybody.
Yeah. He's a national treasure. It's so much fun. More Fitzmagic, please. Fitzpatrick, better at life than Skip Bayless.
It kind of feels like he's poking a little fun at Cam Newton too, except doing it as a winner is a lot better look than coming out after a loss.
Yeah.
And looking ridiculous.
And looking ridiculous. Yep. Right. I love him.
That was a big baller move right there.
It was.
All right, Adam. Well, I think that does it for this week's show.
I think it does. And good show by you.
Hey, you too, man.
No, thanks, man. I think that might be the first, last, and only time we both sing on a show. I think that might be good for everybody else.
We just one of us singing per
max.
Show.
I think that's the max.
Yeah,
and it should be you.
I'm not even that good at it.
Yeah, well, so since this is going to be my last and final appearance singing on this show, with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.